In this video, I'm going to show you how to disassemble your Johnson Millennium, either 150 or 250. Please listen to the warnings at the beginning. If you have any doubt about doing anything demonstrated in this video, take your amp to a technician. You don't have to completely take apart your amp to do certain things, but please adhere to the warnings presented. This video is in response to questions about basic repairs and maintenance, and also people who have been interested in having me work on the amp for them. This will allow you to ship only the necessary board to me for repair, keeping the cost of a long-distance repair reasonable. This will also allow you to handle simple repairs that will appear in other videos on my channel. If at any point you have questions, please leave them in the comments or email me through the contact form on my website, which is www.bosleymusic.com. Warning: ensure the amplifier is unplugged and turned off prior to attempting any task displayed in this video. Regardless of what you intend to do, follow the instructions given in the section entitled Power Supply Safety. The power supply and accompanying transformer can store fairly strong charges for relatively long periods of time. Carelessness can lead to these charges damaging your amplifier, more importantly cause harm to your precious bodily fluids. If you're unsure of how to do anything outlined in this video, consult a technician. I suggest using an anti-static wrist strap as you pull boards from the amp to prevent against electrostatic discharge, ESD. You should have a static-free environment to place the components once removed. When you put the amp back together, only hand tighten the nuts holding the encoder's input contour and master volume controls. Over-tightening these components can damage them. I assume no responsibility and make no warranties for the information provided in this video. Tools required: a variety of Phillips head screwdrivers, an American units, inches, ratchet set, end cutters or equivalent to cut zip ties. Optional: an anti-static wrist strap, although highly recommended. And for early units with heat sinks, you'll need a 7/16" Allen wrench. There are two types of connectors depending on the year your Johnson was built. Snap-in connectors as pictured, and straight header pins which may be hot glued, and you can just peel that away to remove them. Johnson amplifiers were also manufactured with two different types of heat management systems for the power amplifier: a fan assembly or heat sinks. I'll discuss each variation where relevant. To disassemble the chassis, you must first remove it from the cabinet or housing. Begin by disconnecting the speakers from the power amp jacks. Optionally, you can remove the back of the 150 to clean the inside or change speakers. Unscrew the clamp which holds the power cable to the housing. I begin by removing the 4 screws holding the transformer to the cabinet. Tilt the amp on its side, transformer side down, so that the weight is off of the chassis and screws and on the housing. Remove the remaining screws from the housing. The chassis can now be slid out of the back of the amplifier. In some cases, screws will come out with grommets from the housing attached. This is okay and is not a sign of damage to the amp. As a note, you should also keep track of where screws and other parts came from. In the Marine Corps, I was taught rifle cleaning with what was affectionately referred to as an idiot rag, which was a white sheet with all the parts of the M16 marked on it. For an idiot rag now, I use a white piece of paper, place the components on it, and mark where they came from so that when it's time to reassemble something, I can do it without any guesswork. First off, do not discharge this power supply with a screwdriver, or anything with a screwdriver, ever. You should ensure that there is no charge in the transformer or power supply prior to conducting maintenance on the amp. Begin by disconnecting the transformer from the power supply board. Disconnect the power harnesses leading to the power amp and main board. You can check the voltage by holding the negative lead of a voltmeter to the ground terminal on the Molex power supply connector marked ground, while holding the positive lead to the supply in question. All supplies should read 0, and if not, they should be discharged through a resistive load, such as a high wattage resistor. Failing to ensure that no charge is present can result in damage to the equipment and endangers your safety. If you're unsure of how to do this, consult someone who knows. Some of you will probably notice in the slides that I still have connections made on the power supply. I verified that no charge was present on the system prior to doing anything, and you should as well, following the directions I just gave you. This is the last warning. If you don't know what you are doing, go to someone who does, or contact me through the form on my site, which is www.bosleymusic.com, and ask me. The removal of the MIDI board is fairly simple. Inside of the amplifier, disconnect the ribbon cable leading from the MIDI board back to the main board. It's located next to the backup battery. Remove the plastic nuts from the expression pedal and J3 jacks, and remove the 2 screws for the MIDI in and out. The MIDI board is removed. Begin by removing the zip ties holding the wiring harness to the front panel. Next, disconnect the 3 ribbon cables which lead from the front panel to the main board. 2 screws on each side of the panel hold it to the main body of the chassis. Remove these 4 screws. Disconnect the display supply, which is a pair of cables, black and white, leading from the panel to the power supply. The front panel can be further disassembled to clean and replace encoders and switches. I do not recommend removing the display for any reason other than replacement. First, remove the vacuum tubes by unscrewing the retaining bracket. Then lift off the bracket and remove the tubes. If you plan on using the tubes again, try not to touch them with your hands, but instead use a dry, clean cloth. Unscrew the vertical portion of the tube retaining bracket. Remove the screw on the bottom of the amplifier that held the retaining bracket in place. Unscrew the front panel control nuts and remove the washers. Also unscrew the plastic input jack nuts. Next, disconnect the ribbon cable from the main board to the power amp and unplug the Molex power connector. You will also need to remove the zip tie holding the black wire to the power harness. Disconnect the 3 ribbon cables running from the front panel LEDs and switching assembly to the main board. At this point, we can begin unscrewing the main board from the chassis. Begin by removing the 2 screws in the center of the board which hold in a metal bracket in the case of heat sinks, or alternatively are the 2 center screws for the fan assembly. Remove the remaining screws from the board. There are 7 of them. Once all screws are removed, gently push the main board back towards the power amp and then to the left out of the side of the chassis assembly. If your unit has heat sinks, begin by removing the lower screw pictured and take the metal bracket off of the bottom of the chassis. If your unit has a fan, begin by removing both screws pictured. In the case of a fan assembly, a red and black lead come up through the bottom of the amp to the power supply. You will need to disconnect these from the terminals shown and feed the leads out of the bottom of the amplifier. Then remove the 4 nuts from the back of the fan. The assembly is ready for removal. As a note, clean your fan out and I encourage you to do it often. It's probably filthy no matter how much you keep your amp covered, and as a warning, dust inside of the fan will blow directly into the amp and onto components. Alternatively, if you have heat sinks, each heat sink is held by 2 screws with Allen heads. Remove the 4 heat sinks. What will remain are 2 hex-headed screws, and these hold a bracket which helps heat sink the power amp internally. For fan coil Johnsons, you'll need to remove 6 hex-headed screws and the 4 nuts from the screw posts. The internal heatsink brackets can then be removed. On both versions, you'll need to remove 6 nut washer pairs from the effects loop and power amp jacks and 4 screws for the XLR direct outs. Lastly, a bracket leading from the power amp must be taken off, and it's much easier to do this once the power amp is out. Simply unscrew the 2 screws and the power amp removal is complete. The front panel LEDs and switches are simply removed by unscrewing them. Sort of uneventful, so here.
Bang!
There are 2 screws for heat sinks underneath the amplifier near the transformer. Remove them. There are 3 top screws which hold the power supply in. Remove them and lift the power supply out of the amplifier. If you followed these steps, your Johnson is now safely disassembled and ready for other tasks. So if you have additional questions, feel free to post them in the comments or contact me through the contact form in the footer of my website, which is bosleymusic.com.